had a really great experience yesterday. The more I get the hang of this, the funner it gets. Anyway, for the last couple nights, the K energy coming in at night has been really strong. This is the energy at the onset of the evening that, my body is still acclimating to, and that has in the past been real challenging for me physically, because it's like getting electrocuted, My legs shake. I've talked about this before. My feet get super hot. I get sort of physically agitated in certain ways. Gotta get up, stand on my head, do some yoga, do all that. But for the last couple nights, by the way, everything that I just said has reduced so greatly over the last 2 years. Used to be up over a 10, now it's at about a 1. But I can feel the energy coming in, and basically it just keeps me awake, keeps me wide awake. Can't go to sleep, can't fall off in a dream, can't project, just wide awake, conscious in the 3D reality frame. And the other night, at first, I start to get, a little agitated when at 2 a.m. I'm still up, when I, went down at 10. But, then it just sank in. It's almost immediate now. If I go to get agitated, or if I decide to make a maneuver into something that's not going to benefit me, it's almost immediate now that I correct it, reverse it, step back, whatever it happens to be. And I realized as soon as I stepped back from that I was in the middle of receiving epiphanies, tangible, experiences of epiphanies, and I hadn't even really realized it before, because my mind is on getting my legs comfortable or whatever. I didn't realize until that moment. So I realize I'm getting these epiphanies, and they all have to do with the event of the environment merging with me fully from the wake state, and what that's going to be like. I was being given the experience of what this is and what it's going to be like. Spent the next hour acclimating to it, and realizing that this was going to happen fully for me soon, and when it does, there'll be no reverting back to the previous degree of perceived three-dimensional separation that I experience now. And then at about 3 a.m. I was finally let to fall off. At 6 a.m. I wake fully rested, and the projections begin. Really, really interesting, really fun, because I'm recognizing them now. I'm recognizing the areas where I am. For instance, that morning I was in a simulation, and the simulations literally seemed designed to prepare me for the event of the environment merging with me. They seem designed for me to interact and communicate more directly with the environment, up to and including the specific people and things in this environment, in each environment. I'm not going to go into the details of this projection. I do write these up, and I will post you a link down below to the write-up, which will be on the Explorations in Consciousness board. I very rarely put these on my own board anymore. When I relay my experiences, it's almost always over there. So just to say, for those of you who check the Om Talks board, what I'd like to go into now there is one thing that makes everything that's happening right now with the Kundalini, with getting pulled out of my body, with my central nervous system going into shock, with the seriously fast-paced acclimating I've had to move through these past couple years. The reason that I have been able to keep up is because I have been able to, within my experiences, within some of them at least, receive the foundational data that my visual interpretations, the visual environments I arrive in, of that foundational data is coming through clearly, and it leads to a simplicity in the experience. It leads to a stableness. It leads to much less fear than when you're simply left with your own visual interpretation of the foundational data without knowing what the foundational data of that visual interpretation even is. This is very confusing, and I'm going to be a little more specific because I know that was a really long sentence. But for instance, transitions are my thing. I know that it's part of my job here on the planet at this time to be experiencing extremely lucid transitions, all of them, getting used to all the phenomena, transmuting all my fear in relation to these phenomena. For me and for us all, the more there are who, like me, are transmuting fear within the shift phenomena, the easier it will be for other people to bring their conscious awareness in on the shift. It won't be as scary. There will be enough transmuted that they're able to now come in. And shift phenomena is very easy to visually interpret as things like being kidnapped, being abducted by aliens, etc. And I don't mean to make lightly of this. I've experienced it all, and it's horrific. uh, I was able to receive the foundational data, though. The foundational data within those visual representations or interpretations were simply that you're in a shift. That was the foundational data. You're in a shift. You're shifting from one reality into another, from one dimension into another, from one state of awareness into another. And because I was able to get to the foundational data of the visual interpretations I was coming up with, I've been able to move through these scenarios and not get stuck or caught up in them for a long time, to the point that, that's all I'm experiencing, and my fear, gets into the way to the point where I'm no longer even allowing myself to be conscious that this is even taking place. This has happened with so many of us. I was listening to an interview the other day, or trying to. My computer won't let me listen to a lot of the YouTube videos anymore for some reason. But the names aren't coming to me. Thomas Campbell and the guy who wrote Astral Dynamics, Robert Bruce. We're having a video interview together. And Robert Bruce had brought up the silver cord. And it was such perfect timing and opportunity for Thomas Campbell to be there in reply to him, because he brought up that it's not that this phenomena is real or not real. It's very real for those who come up with that visual interpretation. But he then puts through that the foundational data is simply that we are connected to Source. We're always connected. The connection is always there. That's the source, the foundational data. And the visual interpretation that some people have of this connection is of a silver cord from their navel to the navel of their etheric body or whatnot. So just understanding the foundational data that your visual interpretation is based on is a fuller picture. It makes you more clear. It definitely eliminates fear. So many things, but in so many ways, in so many specific ways, we're not necessarily receiving that foundational data. When we don't get the foundational data, when we only get our visual interpretation, we end up with blind spots. I've got my blind spots. Boy, do I have my blind spots. Like, I'm trying to figure out why the K energies in the etheric, I visually interpret as sexual interaction, and I am understanding that I'm visually interpreting the foundational data this way, but I'm not aware of the exact foundational data. So I have this huge blind spot, and I'm trying to get to the foundational data. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to avoid the visual interpretation. I'm not trying to avoid the energy of the visual interpretation. Many people have suggested that I do and that I am. But what I'm really doing is wanting the foundational data. That's important to me. Because if I'm in the visual interpretation without the foundational data, it's confusing. And I don't want to continue along the line of the confusion. I hope that makes sense. I think there's at least some people listening here that can relate to what I'm saying, because you too have relayed to me that you're having very challenging situations in visual environments, in non-physical visual environments. And many others of you that are not projecting or going out of body, you're having these experiences right here in your physical projections, in physical reality, in physical visual environments. And so I'm sure you can at least relate on this level. It's all the same, no matter how deep you go. It's all the same, foundationally.